It's been 1 month since Ukraine was first invaded by Russia, and while a lot of things have changed during this invasion, some things have stayed the same throughout. There will be three major things that we cover here. We're going to talk more about economic issues, we're going to talk about US intervention, and we're also going to talk about the general focus and the state of the armies on both sides for this fight. Starting with economic status, for Russia, it's become a very rapid decline as many of the Western brands and other supporting parties have immediately started to leave, leaving a lot of the industry that was once, lifting Russia up and giving them much more of a stable income than previous years, is now immediately gone. And now it's back to that sort of turmoil that was seen after the Soviet Union collapse, and how that sort of build back up that Putin was honestly encouraging in his campaign, that he was the one who was going to build that prosperity back up, is now immediately gone again. For Russia, the ruble has immediately started to crash, and the only thing really keeping the economy afloat at all right now is their oil and gas trade, which is still going strong thanks to Europe's true need for that production. They can't provide tariffs on this oil production and gas production because it's so necessary for their ways of life in Europe, because that is their main provider. If they get rid of that provider, all of a sudden they have no gas and oil at a fair price, and their economies would crash respectively. All in all, this economic situation may well be the downfall for the Russian advance, because if they cannot turn around their general depression, the community support that is once so ravenous because of Putin's propaganda and various techniques to help try and sway the public. If the public is starving and has no money for any not normal goods, that support doesn't matter. They're still going to view their situation as poor and not support the war. That's very clearly being detrimental to their health. Moving on to U.S. intervention, like much of the NATO countries, the U.S. is not planning to get directly involved. There was recently an agreement with Poland. Poland wanted to send in fighter jets into the Ukrainian borders to help establish a counterattack force of sorts and a direct fighting opponent against the Russian Air Force in Ukraine. Putin immediately said that should this happen, it will be considered as a declaration of war on Russia, and that anyone who was to send in fighter jets on Ukraine's behalf would automatically be at war with Russia as well. So that immediately restrained the wants of the US and of the United Kingdom to get involved in this project, because that would immediately signal war, and that's something that obviously would immediately escalate this conflict beyond imaginable proportions. So instead, the US has redoubled on its military aid. They've been trying to generally help with the various different army and supply vehicles. They've been sending in various weapons, anti-tank weapons. They've sent in armor sets and helmets for Ukrainian soldiers. This all is going to help generally support the army while not being directly involved with the actual fight itself. As for military situations, the Russian army is generally in bad shape. Putin himself admitted to the fact that most of the army population is 18 to 19-year-old conscripts that have been simply thrown into this battle as fresh new adults, nearly a year older than I am, have been thrown into battle against a war they have no idea what the purpose is of. And of course, Putin didn't take direct responsibility for this, and instead blamed other commanding officers and said that whoever made this blunder would truly suffer and be punished. It's clear that this is sort of the state of the Russian army, and there's no basis for another step of communication, another step of training after that. They're just there to try and be a sort of mindless horde and attempt to break this Ukrainian line. In addition to that, the communications equipment used by Russian command is increasingly easy to hack. Russian command has been noted to be using mostly cellular phones and walkie-talkies, both of which can be easily geolocated, or otherwise known as when a phone's location or general area is located through just where its location is beaconing off of, and people are able to trace that and get direct locations and coordinates of major officers and major parties and where they're headed and what their coordinates are. It's gaps in communication like this that are also allowing Ukrainians to take advantage of simply mindless Russian advances, where there has been times where a similar position has been bombarded 3 times in a row, and forces have been there every single time, even after the previous bombardings have happened, which means that these Russian forces were going into this area, seeing the destruction of a bombardment, and continuing on and making camp there as if it's the right place to be. And that's simply because there's no communication going on beyond the whole general army population, because the facilities for that aren't there. On the Ukrainian side, the small but organized groups and the various volunteers that have come in from different countries to help out have been taking out Russian convoys since the start of the war. They're using anti-tank weapons, they're using general guerrilla tactics, they've been using civilian drones to drop bombs on Russian tank convoys. All of these ploys and various tactics have been extremely successful against an already demoralized Russian advance. All in all, the Ukrainian defenses are holding strong, and the support from Western countries has helped that immensely in giving them the proper tools in order to take out the Russian advance as much as they can. While cities may still fall, the reality is that in these cities, the people are continuing to fight through bombardment, through war crimes, through general shelling. They've continued to push on, and that's been a true sign of determination and grit from the entire Ukrainian population. Reporting for Scott Center News, I'm Hayes Gabbery.